On Tech News Today, Google takes over management of a big NASA airfield in Silicon Valley, and we'll tell you why. Plus, Apple is making a big push for the enterprise. Facebook and Microsoft are making a big push for Africa, and Google adds games to Chromecast. All that and tons more coming up right now.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Tuesday, November 11th, 2014. This episode is brought to you by Citrix ShareFile. Enhance your workflow. Send files of almost any size easily and securely with Citrix ShareFile. Try ShareFile today. For a 30-day free trial, go to sharefile.com, click the microphone, and enter TNT. And by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform that makes it fast and easy to create your own professional website or online portfolio. Now introducing Squarespace 7 with even better site management tools and other improvements. For a free 2-week trial and 10% off, go to squarespace.com and use the offer code TNT. Tech News Today is the show where we talk about the tech news with the journalists who report it. Welcome to the show. I'm Mike Elgan. And good morning to you, Anthony Nielsen. What's going on, man?
Oh, nothing much. Just by looking at the sheer number of links that you put in the doc, though, it's looking like an awesome show. So
I do it all for you, Anthony.
Oh, great.
I know you love a huge challenge, and so I throw as many links at you as I possibly can. So you are welcome. Also, it's Tuesday, so we have Joe Panettieri, our co-anchor for Tuesday. How's it going, Joe?
It's going great, and I come armed with even more links, so it's going to be a good show.
A lot of links. Where's R2D2 today? Usually you've got a little bit of help in the background.
He's packed away over my left-hand shoulder.
Okay.
where is he?
There he is.
Oh, there
okay.
he is.
All right. I feel reassured. Wonderful. Well, Amazon's got a big event in Vegas today kicking off around Amazon Web Services. I know you're expecting some stuff to come out of that. What are you expecting?
Yeah, so Amazon's AWS reInvent conference, I think this is the 3rd or 4th annual conference, Mike. Huge event. You're going to see some price cuts out of Amazon. You're going to see a lot of big data announcements and partnerships and certifications. Amazon is trying to get on-premises IT professionals certified for the cloud. So you'll see a lot of that this week. And this event, of course, follows the Google Cloud Platform Live event we talked about last week. So, the boxing match between Google, Amazon, and Microsoft continues.
Yeah, and the cloud just keeps getting more powerful for enterprises and also a lot cheaper for everybody. So always interesting when there's a big cloud event from one of those companies. Well, let's get into the news. Google signed an unusual deal with NASA to take over management of NASA's Moffett Field in Silicon Valley. Elizabeth Weise is a reporter for USA Today and joins us now. Welcome, Elizabeth.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Before we get into the deal, can you tell us what the heck Moffett Field is and why it exists?
You know, it is so cool. I mean, if you have any interest in the history of aviation, it is this totally cool space. It was originally a naval airfield. This was before there was an Air Force. Started in the 30s, and it was where they parked their dirigibles. There are actually 3 big hangars there, but the biggest is Hangar 1. You see it there on the screen. It is enormous. It's 350,000 square feet. The thing's 200 feet tall. It's so big that sometimes it has its own weather patterns. Fog can form up in the ceiling. I was actually in the building probably about 15 years ago, and when you're inside of it, it's so big that you can't actually get a sense of where things are in it or the size of things because your eyes can't, your mind keeps saying, no, I must be outside because I can't be inside because this is too big. So it's this enormous space. The Navy hasn't used it in a long time. They gave it to NASA. It's been sitting there empty. About 10 years ago, they found that there was asbestos and other chemicals on the tiles that were used over top of it, and so they had to do a big retrofit, which was expensive. And there's been a huge fight in Silicon Valley to preserve it as a building because of its historical significance, and it's just so cool. If you've ever driven from San Francisco to San Jose on 101, you drive by this thing and you kind of look over, and there's this enormous big thing that looks like the Goodyear blimp could fit in it, and in fact, it could.
Yeah. Now, Elizabeth, I'm from New York, and even I've driven by that building and said, wow, what's going on in there? So now this is a 60-year deal. What does Google need to do with this building or this land for 60 years?
Well, because it's federal land, they can't buy it outright. And Google thinks, I mean, there's 2 things Google's thinking here. One, this is just 3 It's 3 miles from their main Mountain View campus. And as we all know, space in Silicon Valley is tight. It's only going to get tighter. They're thinking very long term. But the other thing is, and this is actually a subsidiary of Google called Planetary Ventures LLC, and it's kind of the wing that they use to do. I mean, they've got some interesting works going on with robotics, with space exploration. We're not entirely sure what all of that's going to be, but if you are Google and you're at all interested in having a large space where you can perhaps play around with spaceships, what better thing than Hangar 1 to have 3 miles from your headquarters?
Now, my assumption is we're talking about stuff relating to their Titan Aerospace acquisition, Boston Dynamic robots running around and doing Karate Kid moves, and Project Loon, where they're going to have high altitude balloons dropping internet connectivity on remote areas. Are those the kind of projects that they may be using this space for? I mean, you mentioned that it's so big inside that it's like being outside. This is a place where they could actually do outdoor stuff that nobody could see because it's essentially covered. Are these the kinds of projects you expect to take place inside that big Hangar 1?
That's what we think is going to be going on in there. And it's a 60-year lease, so who knows what it will evolve into. But those are some of the things that we know Google's already working on that you need space for. They don't want to have to be like Virgin Galactic and go out to the Mojave Desert. They can have it right in their own back door. But the other part of this is that this deal also gives them access to a bunch of other space. There's 2 other hangars which are smaller. I believe that there's a small golf course there. I mean, they're getting a ton of space in some of the most hotly contested area in the country. So it's a good deal all around. Plus, it allows them to explore in whatever ways they want with this massively useful hangar, which they're going to spend a ton of money to retrofit. I mean, they're doing this. They're going to put a lot of money into this space, but they have a lot of money.
Hey, Elizabeth, are there any clues about whether NASA may actually poke around and see what Google's up to here? I mean, is this more than a land deal and sort of a owner and tenant deal, or might NASA do a little bit of research poking around?
Well, so NASA Ames, which is one of NASA's sites, is going to still be on that. It's co-located there, and that NASA Ames is staying there. It's not going anywhere. If you have kids in the Bay Area and they've ever done Space Camp, that's where Space Camp is. It's also where the SETI, the Search for Extraterrestrial Life Institute, is based down there. So, I mean, it's kind of like Silicon Valley writ small in that you're going to have a lot of very interesting people in close proximity to one another. I don't necessarily know that NASA is thinking, oh, wow, we want to be next to Google because we want to see what they're doing. But everybody who's in a technical field knows that the more smart people working on interesting things packed into a tight space you can get, it's exponential. It's like a network. Things happen.
Now, the big question that Sergey Brin has, no doubt, is will they be able to take off and land the big Google jet from Moffett?
And I haven't looked into that, so I don't know what the airspace restrictions are there. I mean, it's close enough to SFO, but I honestly don't know if they could land there or not. I don't know what the airspace restrictions are.
They do reportedly have their own sort of terminal at San Jose Airport, which is also very nearby. So who knows whether they do it. But I'm sure they'd love to just park the jet in the hangar just to say they really could do it. Elizabeth Weise is at usatoday.com, and you can follow her on Twitter at EWEISE. Thank you so much for joining us, Elizabeth.
You're so welcome. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye. Well, in just a sec, we're going to tell you what Apple is up to in the enterprise, but first I want to tell you about Citrix ShareFile. I tell everyone I know, including my accountant who handles my own personal finances, that you got to use Citrix ShareFile because sending an attachment over the internet as an attachment email is a terrible, horrible idea for so many reasons. The biggest reason is that if you have big files and files just keep getting bigger, but the restrictions around how big a file can be don't really change and keep up with the times. ShareFile will let you put a file up in the cloud and then send a secure link. It's just a fantastic service, but it's also super, super secure, and you retain control over the files that you send. For example, you can say, I want this one and only person to be able to download this. I want them to download it only once, and after they've downloaded it once, they can't download it a second time. And when they do download it, I want to know right away that they've downloaded it. ShareFile lets you do all that and maintain total control over your files. It's also a huge time saver. I hate wasting time. And when I send somebody a file, I hate sending them an email or calling them and saying, hey, did you get the file? No, I haven't gotten around to it yet. Okay, I'll call you again tomorrow. That sort of thing. It's a big waste of time. With ShareFile, you can send the file, and when they download it, you know about it. Then you can take action based on the knowledge that they have downloaded the file. Get started today with our 30-day free trial. Go to sharefile.com, click the microphone at the top of the homepage, and enter TNT. And remember that sharefile.com and type in TNT. Well, Joe, it looks like Apple's making a huge push for the enterprise, a real one this time.
Well, I like the way you qualified that, because we all heard about the Apple-IBM relationship maybe 3 months ago with the push into the enterprise. And I think most of us in the industry kept on underestimating this news. And every week, some new pieces of information dribble on out. And the latest comes from Reuters, Mike, and it really talks about how Apple is very quietly meeting with CIOs across the country at private dinners to learn about what CIOs may potentially need from Apple and vice versa. A little give and take at those dinners. The other thing we're hearing is that, or at least from the Reuters report, is that some very specialized application developers like PlanGrid, which is in the mobile construction market, are working with Apple to sort of go enterprise. Christina, great to have you on the line. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's great to have you aboard. Congratulations, first of all, on the scoop. Great story today on what Apple's doing in the enterprise. Can you give us the update? What do you see as the key points of this story or the update here?
Well, what surprised me first and foremost is just to see how many partners Apple has already been working with around the enterprise. Typically, we've seen Apple tend to do kind of everything internally, but when it comes to its sort of corporate push and making sure that it has the right connections, Apple's certainly been reaching out to key stakeholders in the industry, knowing that IBM and others have more resources, enterprise-grade security expertise, and sort of other initiatives that Apple does not have yet.
Now, you mentioned potential clients like Citigroup. What do we know about that potential relationship?
Well, we did hear from several sources that Citigroup and a number of other huge corporate enterprises have already been in talks with both Apple and IBM about potentially buying into its category of enterprise software. And we're going to see Apple not only selling boatloads of devices to these corporations, and in one shipment we could see thousands of iPads in the hands of workers, and also selling business software applications that have been tailor-made for these large corporate clients.
Yeah, there were two parts to the application story there. Some involve some very vertical market players. The other angle here is the established giants like the Oracles and the SAPs. Let's start with the vertical market players first, like a PlanGrid. I think you mentioned them in the story. Where do you see these vertical market players potentially adding value to the Apple enterprise push?
Yeah, we mentioned companies like PlanGrid, a developer, and also ServiceMax in the story. So these are probably not very well-known developers for most of us, but they've actually found some huge success selling applications to, say, field service workers. And with one sort of big client in that space, they might see thousands of iPads being deployed. I mean, if you imagine you order a pizza or you pick up your mail and you've got someone turn up to your house with an iPad, it makes them look like a 21st century service provider rather than kind of the clipboard and pen and paper. And Apple could see huge success in that space. And beyond that, I mean, when you look at sort of verticals like health and financial services, these are enormous markets. And if Apple could sort of do well and lock down some key clients in those areas as well, we could really see an upsurge in sales of its flagship iPad device.
Now, you mentioned ServiceMax and PlanGrid, and your sources are telling you about these specifics. And did you get the sense that this is a baby step that Apple is taking into more deeply into the world of business and the enterprise, or do you think that there's going to be a lot more coming out where they're going after this broad-based thing and establishing partnerships like this with maybe hundreds or possibly dozens of companies like ServiceMax and PlanGrid?
Well, I do believe we are going to see an announcement from Apple in the next few weeks about some of its first both its foundational clients, who are the customers, and also its partners. One of the most interesting things that I learned in the process of reporting is that one source said that Apple had been co-hosting dinners across the United States with ServiceMax, and that they would invite chief information officers and chief service officers who deal with field service workers, and they would just even talk to them about what their needs were in terms of business software and applications, and what Apple could deliver that perhaps other enterprise software behemoths could not, and at a more affordable price. So it's interesting to see Apple almost doing user research over the last kind of year or so by really meeting with some of these high-level IT buyers.
Hey, Christina, what do you think about the traditional corporate IT software giants like an SAP, like an Oracle? Is Apple more inclined to partner or compete with those guys?
My sense is that Apple would be competing. I mean, they already have a partnership with IBM, and IBM certainly brings just a huge network of relationships, as well as predictive software and all of these capabilities that are tailor-made for enterprise. But Apple's already been doing very well with just getting its devices in the hands of workers. And it's this model that we've seen be so successful over the past decade or so, where employees will come in, they have their devices that they love to use, they're easy to use, and eventually the CIO kind of recognizes that, thousands of people are already using these devices, so they figure they might as well kind of make sure that they're safe and secure. And so this isn't particularly new for Apple, but I think we're seeing them really get more formalized with their enterprise push, and staking partnerships with key vendors in the space.
Apple's famous "I'm a Mac, I'm a PC" ad campaign, which was really effective, spent enormous amounts of time and effort to basically slam the whole idea of productivity in favor of goofing off and making pictures and videos and stuff like that. And now they're really getting deeply into the world of productivity. I guess it's inevitable to a certain extent. Christina Farr is at Reuters.com, and you can follow her on Twitter at Chrissy Farr. Thank you so much for joining us, Christina Farr.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, Microsoft and Facebook are making a big push for Africa in the form of portals designed for local needs and budgets. David Meyer writes for GigHome and joins us now. Welcome, David.
Hi. Pleased to be here.
Thanks for joining us. Now, I've heard about Facebook's global plans with Internet.org, but less about Microsoft's plans for Africa. Can you tell us what Microsoft is hoping to accomplish there?
Well, Microsoft has been working behind the scenes, mainly actually testing out a technology called white space broadband, which uses former TV spectrum, radio spectrum, to roll out broadband services. And they've been testing it around Africa, not just Africa, also Singapore, and they just announced in India as well. So that's kind of a lobbying effort. That I suppose, is the counterpart to Facebook's drones and Google's Project Loon. But now what they've done is they've gone in with the carriers in a similar way to what Internet.org is doing, I suppose, and also with an e-payments company called Skrill, a British company. And they seem to be, whereas Internet.org is trying to build sort of mini walled gardens, I suppose, that people can access for free. And then the idea is that they, once they've got a taste of the internet for the first time, the carriers can sell them up. What Microsoft seems to be doing is getting involved with a new kind of ecosystem play, trying to build marketplaces within Africa. So the idea is that Skrill would provide a payment service here, and this would be mainly targeting people who are unbanked, who don't have credit cards, and giving them a way to buy digital goods. And Microsoft would be providing the email addresses through Outlook. It would be providing them people with free cloud storage. Again, it's trying to get people online, but it seems to be more of an ecosystem play rather than a kind of gateway to the web play, if that makes sense.
Right. So David, before you can build the ecosystem, though, to your point, you do at least need the broadband connectivity. Can you tell us just a little bit more about what Microsoft's working on here? And the reason I ask is it proprietary to Microsoft, or is this more of an industry standard that Microsoft is trying to bring forth?
Well, it's not. I don't think the technology. Well, I'm not actually sure if it's proprietary or not, but I do know that Microsoft and Facebook and Google are all working on white space technology. Facebook's been working on it actually with Microsoft in a trial in Ghana. I myself am African. I'm from South Africa, and I visited a Google trial of the white space technology in Cape Town, where I'm from, this stuff works very well. There are various ways to do it, and Microsoft is, getting involved with how to kind of map what spectrum, works where. But really, I think this is, as opposed to, say, the drones and the balloons idea, this is an idea of being able to just simply use the spectrum that is already being used for analog TV, which, needs to be switched off gradually everywhere. Basically reusing that. It's pretty low-cost stuff, actually, being able to roll out this white space technology because it propagates over very long distances, and it's very good for in-building penetration, and it works.
David, is Microsoft's partnership with Skrill, is this something that would compete with Safaricom's M-Pesa product?
Yes, it would. M-Pesa actually hasn't had great success outside of, I think,
Kenya,
Tanzania. They rolled it out there. They have tried to roll it out, I think, in South Africa. They've tried to roll it out in a few other markets. It hasn't replicated that success outside of that East African region. So it would be something that competes with that. What they were talking about in the announcement today was really a matter of using it to pay for digital goods. Obviously, the thing with M-Pesa is being able to use it for other kind of person-to-person payments. I believe you can also use Skrill for that as well, but that's not something that they've been talking about just yet. So it's hard to tell exactly how much it's going to compete with the M-Pesa story.
Hey, David, could you clarify for me, what is Microsoft's monetization plan here? Is it charging for the access? Is it some sort of cut of each payment? Or is it application services sold as a subscription? Where do you think Microsoft's actually going to make some money here?
Well, it's tricky to say where everyone's going to make money when you're talking about people who are coming online for the first time. But clearly they believe there's a lot of disposable income at play here. I don't think this is so much a monetization thing. I think this is more about addressing emerging markets, recognizing the fact that emerging markets are going to become where the weight of the smartphone world are in future, and trying to make sure that the people who are getting onto the internet for the first time through mobile devices, which is what's happening here, that they are using Microsoft services. They're using Outlook.com, as their email address. They're using OneDrive. I really think it's just a matter of getting people onto Microsoft services and making sure that they're on that, rather than perhaps, using Gmail addresses when Google gets serious about addressing emerging markets, as they plan to do as well.
David Meyer writes at gigaom.com, and you can follow him on Twitter at Superglaze. Thanks for joining us, David. Appreciate it.
Pleasure as always.
All right. Well, Joe, I love home automation, and it looks like we're getting some really cool new products now, aren't we?
Yeah, you know what, Mike? There's going to be nothing left for you to do in your home in terms of once all this automation stuff kicks on. The latest comes from Quirky, Mike, and they've announced a new line of home automation products today. It's in partnership with GE, or General Electric. It includes an $80 product called Norm, which sets home temperatures based on a network of home sensors. So basically, your house is getting more and more intelligent thanks to all these sensors that are going to be in various rooms. What I found really interesting here is it's sort of the backstory on Quirky, Mike. They're a crowdsourcing invention company. There's roughly more than 1,000 inventors who are part of their platform, and so far they've unveiled almost 400 products. So these new products are real interesting to me, but that whole ecosystem is the bigger story in terms of cranking out innovation through a platform.
That's exactly right. That's what I love about Quirky, is that they're really focused on innovation. This isn't just a company that wants to make money or figures they can do an also-ran product for a lower price or whatever. They always go after innovation, and every one of these products is innovative in some way or another, and they're really affordable. For example, you have Tripper, which is a small window or door sensor to monitor home security. Now, 2 of these Tripper sensors cost $40. That's $20 a sensor. That's super affordable home automation. Of course, this is a category that's always been overpriced and overcomplicated, and they're trying to simplify it. Another one called Outlink is a $50 wall outlet to help people demystify how much energy is being used. Now, in the UK and all around in various places in the world, monitoring your energy is pretty trivially easy. The electric companies in those places will help you do that. Here in the United States, it's a lot more difficult. But with a device like this, you can just plug it into the wall. It can monitor your electricity use, and you can actually reduce that and save yourself a lot of money, essentially paying for the product itself. A $90 sensor called Ascend turns an ordinary garage door opener into a connected one. Things like that. This is innovative stuff and is very affordable and accessible. And not only do they have this sort of plug-and-play turnkey attitude about these devices, they also are working to let you really tinker as well. So they have options far beyond the, they're not locked down like Apple products, and they're not wide open like Linux products. They're kind of like the default is to be like an Apple product, but then you can go and tinker and sort of roll your own solution.
Yeah, it's almost like a Lego set. They basically have this unique program, quote unquote, where you can go in and roll your own solutions, to your point, Mike. But I think the building blocks are standardized so that you're not going to get too lost and come out with your own, quote unquote, Lego set that suddenly looks like a mess. So that'll be interesting to watch. And then, also pay attention here to the patent story. As Quirky was building out its business and its platform, the company acquired thousands of patents. I shouldn't say acquired, got access to thousands of patents, GE included. And basically, as long as developers on the platform don't use the patents to compete with the patent holder, you're free to use it.
Yeah, it's really a cool company, and I really love what they're doing. It's nice and refreshing to see this kind of innovation being put forward, and I can't wait to check these things out myself. I love this category, and these look like really fun and useful devices. So great stuff from Quirky. Well, a senior Alibaba executive said today that his company and Apple are in talks about a partnership for using Apple Pay in China. The partnership would help Apple overcome legal restrictions around operating a payments business in China. And Joe, this is typical sort of Chinese scenario where the government puts these restrictions on foreign companies that require you to use a local company. So the Chinese companies always get a piece of the action. Still, it's a mother of all markets. So, of course, they've got something of value that everybody wants. And so, one of the options here is that they're talking about potentially is that Alibaba's financial affiliate would use the back-end services for Apple's Pay. So you could use Apple Pay if you're a Chinese iPhone user, but it could come out of your Alipay account. And that would be a super convenient across the board. You already have an Alipay account and you already have an iPhone, and you can just connect those together and just pay for stuff with your iPhone.
Yeah, it would be similar to sort of a PayPal iPhone connection here with Apple Pay and PayPal, for instance, in thesis, of course. But, it is interesting. Every time we seem to be covering Apple these days, the word partnership is coming up, even in the U.S., abroad, et cetera. It's just so clear that Tim Cook realizes, I think Apple snuck up on people a decade ago by very quietly cutting deals with music companies, et cetera, and then dominating a market. This time around, it seems like all of Apple's partnerships have to be announced and really worked out because Apple can't sneak up on you anymore.
That's right. And, of course, this partnership, which, again, is not a done deal, and it's based on sources, was hinted at by Alibaba founder and CEO Jack Ma in a Wall Street Journal interview about a month ago. So this is not entirely surprising, but it is very interesting news and huge news for Apple and Apple shareholders, because if they can get into payments in China, I mean, it's just going to be a huge source of revenue, theoretically. Well, Joe, Microsoft said they wanted to erase the line between work and personal, and now it looks like they're really kind of doing it, aren't they?
Yeah, they really are. What we're seeing is more and more bundle offerings that tie together Microsoft's business cloud services with their consumer cloud services, so that, Mike, if you're a user of, say, Skype and maybe Office 365 and Xbox Music Pass, now you get that all in a single bundle annual subscription, and the line between work and play is gone. And then furthering that, Mike, I think Microsoft is also out to simplify its brands. One of the things we're hearing today from a range of news outlets is the Link brand will go away at some point in 2015 and be replaced with the Skype for Business brand. So the whole idea is, yes, get rid of that line between consumer and business and tie everyone up with subscriptions for at least a year.
They're bundling Office 365, Xbox Live Gold, Xbox Music Pass, and Skype Unlimited. I have the feeling that one category is not a person who wants to combine work and business or sort of get it all in a bundle, but just power users who want the extra power of Office 365 and so on. And, you know, another curious thing about this is that this deal is available through January 4th. It's available today, and it goes through January 4th, which is not a whole lot of time. But then it said, or while supplies last, which I thought was a little bit of strange Microsoft humor there.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, basically, I think what they're hoping is they run out of cloud storage for all these people coming online.
Why the supply
and actually have to just say hey, you know what? Our servers are overwhelmed. Let's take a breather here. But no, kidding aside, the other thing you notice here is there are some really strong brands in the suite, such as Office 365. And then, you know what? I don't know how many people are actually using Xbox Music Pass these days. So I think this is Microsoft's way of taking some of its weaker stepchildren and rolling them in with the stronger brothers.
Yeah, that's a great point. And that's probably something that they can use to show numbers. You know, it's like it boosts the numbers in a weak area where they feel vulnerable. Microsoft historically has done that by combining different divisions together so that they could, in their financial reporting, they could report robust health for the division, but you couldn't really tell where the weak links were. So this is a way to actually put this stuff in the hands of people. Who knows, maybe people discover some of this stuff and like it. Stranger things have happened. Well, in just a sec, we're going to give you some updates, but first I want to tell you about Squarespace. I'm so excited about Squarespace. Every time I talk about Squarespace on this show, I tell you how great it is and how easy it is to use, and somehow they've managed to make it greater and easier. Squarespace 7 has just been introduced, and it makes getting started with a unique web presence even easier, and it has more all-in-one, simpler to navigate and operate in one seamless operation. This is so easy to use. You can live edit on screen, which is really nice if you're a blogger or if you're just building a website for any reason. It's far more intuitive. No more toggling between the site manager and the preview mode, which has been the way you've done this kind of thing since the beginning of time. It's always been irritating. It's always been a necessary evil, but no longer. With Squarespace 7, you can just do it right there on the page. You can have instant branded email set up with Google Apps if you're a Google Apps user. And Squarespace has designed category-specific templates that cater to the site requirements for industry groups. The example that I like to give is the Horizon template, which is laid out for bands, and they have others as well. But if you're a band, you can have certain things like tour dates and music player support and so on, and they just have that all built in. Super, super cool stuff. And their developer program is out of beta. You can use the same developer platform that Squarespace engineers themselves use to build Squarespace. Super powerful, and you can use it now that it's out of beta. And of course, Note and Blog apps are now on Android. So we've been talking about the iPhone and iPad way to support your blog, to manage your blog. Now you can do it from an Android device as well. And of course, hosting is not only included, but it's legendary. You cannot bring down a Squarespace website. Start a free 2-week trial with no credit card required and start building your website. When you decide to sign up for Squarespace, make sure you use the offer code TNT, and that'll get you 10% off the already incredibly low price. And to begin using Squarespace 7, existing customers just go to the Settings tab to activate all the new features. And we thank Squarespace for their support of Tech News Today. And remember that a better web awaits, and it starts with your new Squarespace website. Well, the Wall Street Journal reported Friday that Tesla founder Elon Musk and Worldview Satellites founder Greg Weiler plan to launch a fleet of 700 microsatellites to deliver internet connectivity across the globe. Last night, Musk confirmed the news in a tweet, and it said an official announcement is coming in 2 or 3 months. Joe Panettieri, do you remember Teledesic? Bill Gates' plan to do exactly this?
Do exactly this. And I think the way the world has changed, though, is in addition to this, we've got millions of drone owners now. And frankly, I just wonder how we're going to fit all this up in our skies.
Yeah, exactly. We should just mesh network the drones together, and the whole world would have internet connectivity. Well, Microsoft today rolled out its first smartphone that doesn't use the Nokia branding. The new Lumia 535 costs $140 unlocked. Phone looks a lot like previous Nokia Lumia handsets from the outside, but inside the phone has 5-megapixel cameras front and back, and a few Microsoft-specific extras like Skype and OneNote. Phone goes on sale in China, Hong Kong, and Bangladesh this month, with other countries to follow. Google updated its $39 Chromecast TV streaming stick today with games designed expressly for Chromecast. The games use your iOS or Android smartphone as a controller, which I think is really cool, and includes titles like Monopoly Dash, Scrabble Blitz, Connect 4 Quads, Simon Swipe, Wheel of Fortune, Just Dance Now, Big Web Quiz, and last and probably least, Emoji Party. Now, it's funny that there's a dance one in there. It's called Just Dance Now, Joe Panettieri, and you actually do the dancing with your smartphone. It's all in the hands. You don't
No. People can do the dancing. I don't.
That's right.
I just want to clarify that.
Yeah.
But
that's who does dancing. Other people.
Right. But I can confirm after this show is over, I will be checking out those games. I'm a big Chromecast fan.
Me too, and I'm going to check them out as well. It sounds like a lot of fun. Well, in other news, Belkin and Mr. Coffee rolled out their smartphone-connected coffee maker. It's called, are you sitting down, the Mr. Coffee 10-cup Smart Optimal Brew Coffee Maker with Wemo. Rolls right off the tongue and onto the floor with a thud. The maker lets you schedule, monitor, and modify the brewing process via the Belkin app over home Wi-Fi. The appliance costs about $150, and it works with iOS and Android. Yeah, I guess that's better to be able to control the coffee maker with your smartphone. I wish you could just grind the beans and put them in there from the smartphone as well. That would be cool somehow. Well, LG has created a new line of smartphones that have Tamagotchi-like personalities. They're called Aka phones. Sleeve covers have embedded smart chips that identify the personality that the phone will take on when you put the sleeve on. The personalities are named Eggy, Sol, Wookie, and Yo-Yo. Yo-Yo being the Smurfette of the group in the sense that her personality is that she's female. Waving your hand in front of the front-facing camera causes them to make funny faces, and it does other tricks like that. You can also take selfies with cartoon versions of the phone's personalities, and of course, you can buy lots and lots of accessories. The phone's specs are mid-range, and the phones are sort of mediocre, and they're available today in South Korea only. And hopefully, they will never make it to the United States.
Yeah, I'm having flashbacks to Microsoft Bob. It's almost like a new generation in the mobile scene.
That's right. That's right. Anyway, anything to sell smartphones. And finally, actress Keira Knightley appeared on Jimmy Kimmel last night and explained her encounter with an exotic tribe of people in Silicon Valley. Let's take a look.
I know you got a big movie premiere tonight here in LA.
Yeah.
And you had a very, I think it's, I don't know, to me it sounds kind of unusual, but in Silicon Valley they had a screening at a mansion, somebody's mansion up, some rich person's place.
Some rich tech person called Yuri, who was very nice.
And you went to Yuri's house.
I went to Yuri's very large house.
To watch your movie with Yuri and his friends.
And his friends, who included Mark Zuckerberg.
Yes.
And Google
Zuckerberg.
people.
Yes.
Called Sergey, who was also very nice.
Yes, yes.
Sergey
These
Brin.
are all very, very wealthy
Rich.
people. I'm surprised they let you leave the mansion. I would have sealed the mansion up, and that would have been the end of it.
I was surprised they let me into the mansion. But yeah, they were very nice. They had a lot of hoodies. Hoodies are big in the tech industry, I found.
Yeah, they are.
Silicon Valley, they love it. Yeah, and Crocs.
Really? No.
Yeah,
Real
yeah.
Crocs.
Sergey, who I assume is a very rich man, was definitely wearing Crocs.
I guess that's
fair
the thing
enough.
you do when you're very rich. It's like, well, I don't want to be ostentatious, so I'm going to wear the stupidest, most disgusting shoes on the planet.
Yeah, it's true.
They seem
Although
kind
we
of
were outside, so it
put
kind of
off
makes
by the
sense. I mean, me in my high
exoticness and
heels
weirdness
sinking
of the
into
Silicon
grass
Valley
and
thing.
all that.
I think we've seen enough of this, but it's kind of funny that people were wearing Crocs. I can pretty much assure you that only Sergey Brin was wearing Crocs. Nobody else was wearing Crocs. Nobody else does wear Crocs. Only Sergey Brin wears Crocs. And I've seen it myself.
Remember, if Steve Jobs was still around, he would have been there barefoot. So
That's right. That's right. Dropping acid or something. Well, probably. Well, our TNT fan of the day is Stan Haskell in San Francisco, California, who posted this picture on Twitter of his kitchen with TNT running on a tablet. And there you are, Joe Panettieri, right next to the knives.
oh, yeah, I see myself there. Excellent.
Yeah, very nice. Very nice. Well, how do you watch or listen to TNT? Not you, Joe. I know how you watch or listen to TNT, but how do you out there watch or listen to TNT? Just record a video or take a picture of yourself or your setup and post it on Google+, Twitter, or Facebook, and use the hashtag HowIWatchTNT, and we'll find it. That's the tech news today. Joe Panettieri, what's happening with your new company? What's going on?
Well, I'll give you another teaser alert, and then I'll give you a longer-term view. The teaser alert is tonight at 9:01 Eastern. We've got an exclusive interview with the CEO of Work Market, which he runs. I mean, Work Market, if you haven't checked it out, it is the fastest-growing online freelance workplace in the world. Basically, it's like an eBay for freelancers. Pretty cool guy. And he talks about how he's building the company, and he teaches IT entrepreneurs how to do similar things in their companies. The other guy we've got on is the CEO of Jump Cloud. Now, Jump Cloud is actually helping corporate enterprises move their Active Directory services out to the cloud. So he's super smart as well. He talks about 8 different companies he has launched and the various exits he's done. And it's really a great tutorial for IT entrepreneurs out there. And then my business partner would kill me, so I won't say too much, but working on some more stuff for Q1.
Fantastic. Joe Panettieri, content czar at after9s.com. And thank you so much for always being our co-anchor on Tuesdays here at Tech News Today.
Thanks for always having me. It's always a blast.
All right. Well, I want you to subscribe to Tech News Today because you should. You can subscribe to it on your laptop and separately on your phone. You always want it available because you want to be the smartest kid in the class when it comes to technology, and we will put you there. So just subscribe on Stitcher, iTunes, YouTube, Feedly, Yahoo, RSS. You can choose your favorite way to subscribe at twit.tv/TNT. You can follow us on Twitter at Tech News Today TV and join our Google Plus community. We'd love to have you there. Just search Google Plus for Tech News Today. And let us know what's on your mind. Send us email at TNT@twit.tv or call us at 260-TNT-SHOW. And don't miss our evening newscast, Tech News Tonight at 4 p.m. Pacific tonight and every weeknight right here on the Twit Network. My name's Mike Elgan. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow.